Good evening, sci-fi movie nerds, and welcome to the Sci-Fi Movie Guy Show. My name is Mike, and this is weekly show number 25. And man, we got a lot of news this week, so let's start out as we always do with Star Wars news. And our first story today is J.J. Abrams shot Star Wars Episode 8 The Force Awakens on 35mm film and IMAX. And Rian Johnson followed suit with Episode 8 by filming it on 35mm film as well, though he apparently opted out on the IMAX for logistical reasons. Now it appears as though Episode 8 director Colin Trevorrow will continue this trend using a physical format over digital by upping the ante set by Abrams, utilizing 65mm film and IMAX. The playlist reports, today Kodak announced that in their processing facility in the United Kingdom, they've added the capabilities to handle 65mm, and one of the projects listed to use Kodak 65mm stock is Star Wars Episode 9. John Schwartzman will be re-teaming with director Colin Trevorrow following Jurassic World. The press release mistakenly lists J.J. Abrams as the director of the film to lens the project, and for both it'll be a return to 65mm, which they partially used on the dinosaur blockbuster, though it sounds like Episode 9 will fully utilize the format. What does all this mean for the third and final installment of the new Star Wars trilogy? The movie, simply put, is going to look better, have richer colors, and feel bigger than The Force Awakens did, as well as Episode 8. The next film in the Star Wars franchise is Rogue One, a Star Wars story, the first standalone anthology movie. Director Gareth Edwards decided to step away from film altogether, however, and shot the film on the Alexia 65 large format 6K digital camera. Audience should expect an ultra-widescreen film when it is released on December 16th. Now, this is really cool to me. First of all, that Rogue One is being filmed in, they call it Alexa 65 large format 6K digital camera, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. That's a huge widescreen thing, and they're going to get lots more into the frames. But knowing that Episode 8 is going to be filmed in 65mm and IMAX is going to be really cool as well. We're going to get to see all the different films and how they look. Now, I know JJ's a real fan of 35mm because he likes the grainier look to a film, not so clear, not so sharp. And that's just each director's take on a film. But you know what? I've seen a couple of movies that are filmed in 65mm, and they really look good. They're crisp, they're clear. They come out on Blu-rays better for home entertainment watching. So I'm excited to see Star Wars going a little more high tech. So yeah, that's our first story. So our second story from Rogue One, Chirrut Imwe, the blind spiritual warrior monk from the upcoming Rogue One, a Star Wars story, is probably the most interesting and mysterious character based on what we know from the movie. The biggest question that many people have is whether or not Yen's character is Force sensitive. Some recent postings on different sites have confused many of the fans, so I will try to put together everything on the table and answer the question, is Chirrut Imwe Force sensitive or not? First, let's start with Imwe's entry on the official databank on StarWars.com. Deeply spiritual, Chirrut Imwe believes all living things are connected through the Force. His sightless eyes do not prevent him from being a highly skilled warrior, though he lacks Force abilities. So right there they said, though he lacks Force abilities. This warrior monk has rigorously honed his body through intense physical and mental discipline. The highlighted text pretty much answers the question, and this article should end here. Unfortunately, though, things with the Force are not that trivial. The fact that Imwe lacks Force abilities doesn't mean he can't feel the Force. Now let's take a look at Wikipedia's entry on the term Force sensitive. A Force sensitive, also known as a Force user, was any individual who keenly attuned to the flow of the mysterious energy known as the Force. Among their natural gifts, Force-sensitive beings could see things just before they happened, which gave them faster reflexes than most. With proper training, Force-sensitives could learn to consciously sense and manipulate that energy, which gave them special powers. I think the meaning of the term Force-sensitive is the main reason for the big confusion. Obviously, according to Wikipedia, Force-sensitive is a synonym of Force user, so if we use the term in this way for Imwe, then he's not Force-sensitive because he lacks Force abilities. Yet still, he does appear to be sensitive in the simple and direct meaning of the word, since he senses the Force. So, this should explain it, and if it doesn't, I'll tell you. Chirrut Imwe will not be using the Force. He will not be moving things with the Force. He will not have Force powers. However, he is using the Force because he's in tune with it and he's studied it. And because he's blind, his senses become more aware. So whether it's just he's made his senses much more aware and he can hear better and sense things coming, and that's how he fights, and maybe he is tapping a little bit into the Force because he's Force sensitive. And that's how he fights all these guys while he's blind. But he won't be using the Force because his midi-chlorian count probably isn't high enough to use the Force. But he won't be using the Force, but he is Force sensitive. I hope that clears it up a little bit. If not, we'll wait and see the movie. It's coming out in a month. So our next story in Star Wars news is this week we had an international trailer, a new TV spot, and then a couple of hours ago we just had a new Korean trailer that has even more new footage. Thanks to StarWarsNewsNet.com for posting the Korean trailer. JediBibliotech.de had some previews in the past from the kids' book Rogue One Mini Build, which mentioned this docking station that is only featured in the Korean trailer. The construction of the Death Star takes place on the distant world of Scarif. It would be a beautiful tropical paradise if there wasn't a military installation. Whole districts were mined to build ships and materials for the Death Star. In near orbit, there is a large docking station capable of housing several Star Destroyers. The world is secured with an impenetrable planetary shield and is heavily guarded. So, if you saw those pictures that I just put up, there was one of the ship trying to fly through the opening to the planetary shield, which is only in the Korean trailer. So it hasn't been seen anywhere else in any of the other trailers or TV spots, just in that Korean trailer. And I really don't want any more Star Wars Rogue One news because I'm learning too much and I want to see it in the movie theater. But because I do a news show, I have to watch them so I can report them to you. But I really wish that I wasn't doing any more Rogue One stories for the next month, because I hope this is it. I hope this is all we get. In that international trailer, we saw another piece of Darth Vader, which was cool. It was very short, didn't give anything away, so that was cool. But I'm just hoping that's it for Rogue One stuff. I want to see the movie so bad. I'm so excited to see this movie. And that's it for Star Wars news today, so now we're going to get into sci-fi news. So our first story in sci-fi news is Doctor Strange came out last week, and I had mentioned before that I was only lukewarm about seeing this movie. But I did go to see it on opening night, so here are my thoughts on the newest Marvel movie. So folks, I told you I didn't know much about Doctor Strange. I thought, okay, you know what, I'll see it when I have time. It just so happens that Friday night when it opened, one of my buddies called me up and said, hey, let's go see it. So I did. And this movie is probably the most visually stunning movie I think I've ever seen in my life. The visual effects, the CGI is absolutely incredible. But if you've watched my show before, you know I'm not a CGI guy. I prefer movies that have real sets and real things in them and actors that can act with each other, and storyline needs to have good continuity. So this movie, I give it a 6.5 out of 10, and I'll tell you why. Doctor Strange, and you know what, before we get started, it's spoiler alert. We put up the spoiler alert thing because I am going to talk a little bit of spoilers. If you don't want to hear any spoilers about Doctor Strange, then you can just scroll through the end till the spoiler alert drops off. But the story, how they introduce him, goes very quickly from he's a surgeon, he gets into a car accident, he loses use of his hands for surgery, then he tries different surgeries, different physiotherapies, that doesn't work, so then he finds this guy that was able to heal himself. He was a quadriplegic with a cracked spine, but he goes to this monastery and finds spiritual powers that help him heal, so Doctor Strange goes there. And this all happens in a very fast time frame. And then Doctor Strange goes from knowing nothing about being a wizard to being a master wizard so quickly in the movie. Now, I've been told later after I saw it that years have passed, but while he's been training. But to me, it just seems like too quick a progression. If you throw that aside and you just go stuff your face full of popcorn and watch this movie for enjoyment, yeah, it's a good movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, it's just not my type of movie. Again, a lot of CGI, visually absolutely stunning. And Benedict Cumberbatch is an amazing actor and does a great job with this role. I just didn't like the script all that much. And that's why I only give it a 6.5 out of 10. Please let me know in the comments section what you think. If you think I'm out to lunch, if you think I have some good points, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So our second story in sci-fi news is Arrival came out yesterday, and I was at the very first screening of the movie, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Arrival, which stars Amy Adams as an American linguist trying to communicate with aliens in spaceships hovering just above the ground in locations around the world, is remarkably realistic. Villeneuve's team utilized an absolute minimum of special effects, except when the aliens are depicted. Little flashy technology is shown. The movie also stars Jeremy Renner and Forrest Whitaker. Now, I put up my non-spoilers slash spoilers review this morning, so you can go to my channel, check out my review. It's a full review. It starts out, the first 3 minutes is non-spoilers, so you can watch that if you haven't seen the movie. Then you can watch the spoilers version where I spoil the movie and talk about what I liked. But I'm just going to let you know that I loved this movie. I thought this movie was phenomenal. But as I said in my review, if you're looking for an alien action-packed film, this is not the film for you. This film has a slow burn all the way through with an incredible story, a climactic ending, a huge reveal, and it has everything that I love in a movie. I gave it a 9 out of 10, which is very, very high for me. The last movie I gave a 9 out of 10 to was Star Wars The Force Awakens. And this is a great, great movie, but for very different reasons than Star Wars The Force Awakens. The script, the filming of this movie, the actors, the portrayals of the characters, everything was right on point with me. The only reason it didn't get a 10 out of 10 is because I reserve 10 out of 10 for movies like The Dark Knight. What else did I give a 10 out of 10 to? Shawshank Redemption got 10 out of 10. So it's very few movies in the world that'll get a 10 out of 10 from me. But 9 out of 10, Arrival. Definitely go spend your money and see this movie if you're a science fiction nerd like I am. But don't expect an action movie. It's a science fiction movie. That's all I'm going to say. Go check out my review on my channel if you want to hear more about the movie and why I liked it and why the little tiny things that I didn't in my review. So our next sci-fi story is Steppenwolf has been cast for the new Justice League movie with actor Claren Hines from Game of Thrones landing the role. We will be waiting with bated breath to see if he will be the only villain in the first Justice League movie, or will we see Darkseid or one of the other new gods from writer Jack Kirby, who did the Fourth World Saga from 1971 to 75, which introduced Steppenwolf. So I don't know a lot about Steppenwolf. All I know really is what I saw in Batman v Superman when he was coming out of that pool and Lex Luthor was communicating with him. Other than that, I don't know much about him. But this actor, what's his name? Claren Hines from Game of Thrones. What a voice on this actor. I think this could be a great villain. Now, I don't think the villain in Justice League is going to have that big of a part because most of this first Justice League movie is going to be putting together the Justice League. We're going to have a little bit of villain, somebody for them to fight, so maybe Steppenwolf is all they need. And they'll defeat Steppenwolf only to find out Darkseid is there, and Darkseid might go into Justice League 2. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know for sure. Maybe they'll pack it full of villains, but I don't think they're going to need to, because that was one of the things about Captain America Civil War that I didn't think they needed was that villain, because I thought just the angst amongst the superheroes would have been enough. So hopefully Justice League does that part right and just gets them together and has, fights amongst each other and trying to put it together is a great enough story for me, and with a little villain in the background. We'll see what happens, but that's what I'm hoping. So our next story in sci-fi news is writer Ken Berg has announced that we will be getting a rebooted X-Men universe by 20th Century Fox. Reports by Fox confirm that Jennifer Lawrence, Michael Fassbender, and Hugh Jackman's contracts have all expired, and after 15 years of movies, it's time to start over. And all I can say is this is exciting news for me, because This universe has become very, very diluted, and there's lots of inconsistencies in the stories. I mean, 15 years of movies. They've had a lot of X-Men movies. And you know what? Jennifer Lawrence wrote it in on the last one. I've said that before. She just didn't do that great of a job in that movie. I don't think she wanted to be there, but you sign all these contracts that say you have to come back if we make another one. So she had to come back, but I think she was pretty clear in her acting on this movie that she didn't want to be there. And Jennifer Lawrence is an amazing actress. I'm not taking anything away from her acting chops because she is a great actress. But actors and actresses need to have passion for the role they're playing. And if you play the same character too many times, you're going to lose that passion. So understandably, she didn't want to be there. That's why it happened. And I think it'd be really cool to start this all over, start it with a young X-Men, or the other thing you could do is we had Deadpool. We had 2 new X-Men introduced in Deadpool. And we could start it there, and they could show these 2 X-Men back at Xavier's school and then start introducing all of the new X-Men and have it kind of come from Deadpool. We know that we just found out we're getting Deadpool 2 and Deadpool 3. So with those announcements, maybe that's how they introduce the new X-Men franchise, and it goes from there with all new actors. That's what I'm hoping they're doing. I hope they don't bring back any of the old actors. We know that Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart are done after Logan. I think it's going to be, the trailers for Logan look incredible. So I think that's going to be a great send-off for those 2 actors and characters. And then let's start anew. So here's hoping that's how they do it. So our last story in sci-fi news today is, do not expect Denis Villeneuve's forthcoming Blade Runner sequel to look anything like his science fiction drama Arrival. They are 2 different movies, Villeneuve tells the Toronto Sun in a telephone interview. While taking a break from shooting his Blade Runner in Budapest, they are very different. That was one of the main objectives, Villeneuve says. The idea was really to see what would happen if it was happening next Tuesday, on a rainy Tuesday morning in North America, he says about Arrival. Arrival was shot on location in Villeneuve's home province of Quebec, with most of the action set in the United States. In contrast, Blade Runner 2049 is a long-awaited sequel to Ridley Scott's controversial classic from 1982. It starred Harrison Ford as a burnt-out replicant hunter in a bleak, futuristic Los Angeles. Ford will make a cameo appearance in the sequel, with Ryan Gosling headlining Villeneuve's strong cast. The project that I'm working on now has its own personality, Villeneuve says wearingly, referring to how he has learned to adapt the dystopian vision offered in the original Blade Runner. This is the first time that I am making a movie in someone else's universe while trying to make something mine. It's a strange transformation, so that's where we are right now. It has its own personality because it was inspired by and is linked to the first movie, but it has its own aesthetic. For obvious reasons, I am not allowed to discuss it, but it's like a different world, that's all I can say. Warner Brothers is keeping a tight lid on Blade Runner 2049, except to give it an official title while confirming its release on October 6, 2017. And I have to tell you, I was never the biggest Blade Runner fan when I first saw it. Now, I can't remember which version it is, the extended ultimate director's cut or whatever it's called, but it was the one that was released like in 1997. That's probably my favorite version of the movie, and I started liking it more as I got older, but when I was younger, it wasn't really a movie for me. It has a really slow burn throughout. The visual effects for its time were amazing, but I didn't think it was one of Harrison Ford's greatest movies. I know a lot of sci-fi fans are going to get mad at me for saying that, but I'm really looking forward to Denis Villeneuve's new Blade Runner, because now with all the technology they have, better acting these days, better script writers, more imagination, I think they can really turn this Blade Runner universe into a very good movie. This has the potential to be better than the original. That's my thoughts on Blade Runner. Again, in the comment section below, let me know what you think. If you thought Blade Runner was a hit right out of the gate, or if you preferred some of the later releases like I did later on with more footage and different edits. Love to hear your thoughts. Again, as always, that is weekly show number 25. You can email me, movieguysyfi@gmail.com, or follow me on Twitter @movieguysyfi. And remember, everybody, nerds rule the world.